Thanks for joining us. Today's webinar is Spring Evangelization Opportunities, presented by Father Frank DeSiano, and I'm going to go ahead and turn the floor over to him.
Thank you so much, Emily, and welcome to all of you around the country. Spring has finally come. Those of us in the Northeast and the Midwest had an unbelievably long winter, so we're very happy to see grass coming up and even pollen on our cars, even if it fills our sinuses with things we don't want to be filled with. And we realize that across the country there are various difficult weather patterns, especially in Texas, happening now. So all of you are in our concerns and in our prayers. This is called Spring Opportunities for Evangelization. And it's a time for us to look at the period of year we're in, what we've been through, and maybe some unique things that are available for us at this time of year, unique opportunities for reaching out. Please join with me in this prayer. This comes from our Awakening Faith program. Loving God, create in us an ever-growing faith with hearts open and centered in you. Awaken within us the fire of your Spirit so that your love may fill us more fully and flow throughout our lives. Increase within us a desire to reach out, to invite and to share, to welcome and accept. Awaken the faith of all your children, especially those who have grown distant from you, those ready to hear an invitation to the love you alone can bring. Awaken us, loving God, to see the fullness of your grace and peace. We pray this through Christ our Lord. Amen. Now, I know from my time being pastor in New York City and also Chicago, May is not a leisurely month. Even though people are feeling spring is coming and they're getting ready for softball, and men and women are taking out their golf clubs and people are putting on lighter clothing, we are usually crammed with all kinds of events, First Communions and confirmations and graduations and Mother's Day and this one and that one and so forth. And we could look at these as almost like an obstacle course that we have to get through. But they actually are wonderful opportunities for us to think about how we can project our parish's message, the message of the gospel, to people who may be around church just for this one occasion, and people who might be particularly disposed to hearing good news. This also is an opportunity for us to prepare for summer events, and the change in weather brings us opportunities to do things outdoors in terms of the apostolate. So we'll be looking at this cluster of material, talking about spring events in our church, talking about opportunities for children, and then specific opportunities for outreach as we go through this. So these are the times when once in a while Catholics stick their heads into church, and especially around First Communions, weddings, baptisms. And therefore, it's an opportunity for them to look at church and see where church is. An opportunity for us to kind of help these people reconnect with any kind of latent Catholicism that is inside of them. They come and they feel a tremendous connection to the child who's making First Communion, or to the couple that's getting married, or the baby getting baptized. And that connection, that very bond that they feel with that person, is an apostolic opportunity for us to kind of build on that connection and reinforce how God is connecting, wants to connect more deeply, and how people inside are longing to connect more deeply with God. So there are times when people bring in active and uninvolved friends to church, and there are times when we can relate our parish to larger entities. So the bishop is coming to do confirmation, and it's an opportunity to connect our parish to the broader church. or sometimes important people are coming to graduation. You may get a local politician who shows up or is going to speak or what have you. And so these are opportunities when we really want to look good as a parish. And putting our best foot forward, especially in terms of hospitality and welcome, in terms of information, and making sure that our messages are saying the right things. Hospitality and welcome. These are so key, especially at these events that are celebratory in nature. We have to really think about greeting people at the door. I've been to some events where school children are greeting people as they come in for First Communion celebration. I was at a graduation last week where the third-year people were acting as ushers and welcoming people for the graduates who were in fourth year. Maybe some of the brothers and sisters of those who are being confirmed, or some of the people who have helped with catechizing and the apostolic preparation of those who are being confirmed. But you really want to think, what is the best face that we could put on as people are coming to this church? And what is going to help people coming to this church have a sense that they're not only coming to a ceremony they have to sit through, but they're coming to a celebration that they can feel involved in and connected to. This is also a wonderful opportunity to have information. We can have information about our parish and information about the church strategically placed. I know in other webinars I've given, I've certainly urged parishes to have a basic attractive brochure about themselves that they can readily give out and they can encourage parishioners to give out. There's also a time when you might have some material about the Catholic Church in general. Various brochures are available, not only from us, but from our Sunday Visitor and other organizations that just present the Catholic Church in a way that is accessible for people. And, our object here is not to make other Christians or people of other faiths feel that they're coming into foreign territory, but simply to position the best face we can about who we are, because people are seeking, people are wandering today, people are unattached today, and you never know when someone picks up something or somebody talks to you, and that opens up for them a path that they want to pursue. But you might think about having an information table with people who are seated in the back who can relate to guests and, can tell them about the parish, tell them about the event, and give them any follow-up advice in terms of, if they wanted to come back or visit again or what have you. So make sure your messaging is saying the right things. You want to talk about yourself as a community in very, very positive terms. You want to show people and the multiplicity of us Catholic people, our intergenerational reality, our multicultural reality, even our multilingual reality. These are all powerfully attractive in a global world. You want to talk about our values, how working and living for the kingdom of God, operating out of love, filled with faith and hope, wanting to serve, to bring good into the world, is what Catholicism is all about. And really emphasize welcoming and inviting as people come. So as you're planning these big events, you might ask one or two people on the staff just to focus on, what would I call it, the ambiance, the environment of welcome that you're going to set up as people come. This may be one of the few times in a year or in several years when somebody actually walks into your church and therefore has a sense to be touched and absorbed by what is going on inside your church. For these big events, make sure invitations have gone out and are widely distributed. And, obviously, some of these things we need to limit. If every student graduating brought 50 of his relatives, we wouldn't have space in our church, etc. So some of those things can be ticketed. But other things that happen might be of broader cultural nature, and we might think about putting signs around town about an event that's going to happen. If the children are giving some kind of closing concert as part of their school year or something of that nature. Make sure that the material the guests received is well done and inviting, and make sure it is geared to them. So often when we think about putting material out, we think we have to put down every organization in the parish with their phone number and this and that and everything else. People are not interested in us. They're interested in themselves and how any resources or values we have can connect with their life. So we don't need to put out the phone book. We don't need to put out tons of words, etc. We need to put out very positive images, very people-oriented images, very humanly engaging images in our material that help people connect. For some of these ceremonies, you might want to have a guest book that people can sign if they want to. This might be appropriate in a variety of settings. And if people do sign up at a guest book, I think, for instance, First Communion, then how are we going to follow that up? Simple letter, thank you for coming, being part of the ceremony that we had. If we can ever do anything for you in the future, please let us know. We want you to feel welcome at our church. Very, very simple things that make a long-lasting impression. And my last bullet point, do not take up a collection, please. I was at a First Communion. It was a Saturday morning, a First Communion. And out of the blue, the priest says, now we're going to take up a collection, and everybody's looking around. These are strangers. These are guests coming to our church to a large extent. So, for the few $100s that we may make, why create all of this? Every time I go to church, they're asking for money kind of theme and reinforce that in people's minds. So really be disciplined about what the service is about, who it's for, and the kinds of things that can happen and not happen. Also, these big events are not times for a lot of announcements about things happening in the parish. They are times to announce where reception is going to be or how photos will be taken, etc. And let's be generous about that. Sometimes the only thing people hear when they come to church is, you can't do this, you can't do that, you can't do something else, and, there will be no flash bulbs in our church, all this kind of stuff. And yet let's be aware of the humanity and the human connections that are here. And as long as it's not chaotic, let's give people whatever opportunities they have to make this a celebratory event and something that they remember, not only about the person whom they're celebrating, but also about the community where the celebration is taking place. So we've looked at some of the big events, and I think there are many opportunities there for us, particularly at this time of year. I also want to look at the RCIA, or the catechumenal process, as I prefer to call it. This, again, is an issue of our lingo, RCIA, which probably a bunch of Catholics understand, but a bunch of Catholics don't know what it refers to, and no one who isn't a Catholic knows what the RCIA is all about. So I think if there's some other ways in which we can develop language about the catechumenal process, I think that would be very helpful. And unfortunately or fortunately, in a lot of parishes, this is a time when the RCIA team wants a little time off. They have prepared candidates, and it's been fairly intense, at least since January, if not before. Weekly, twice-a-week meetings with candidates, trying to get them ready for baptism and then the period after baptism at the Easter Vigil, and summer is coming, and people want some time for themselves. And so it can be a dangerous time, really, because it can be a time when we drop our awareness of our ongoing responsibility, our ongoing privilege to invite people to faith. And here we're talking about the growing number of seekers, the growing numbers of people who are not connected to church. Here we're talking about the kind of shopping that goes on about religion in our culture, for better or for worse, but it is the reality that we live in. We're not talking about robbing people from other churches. We're not talking about dismantling the faith of other people. We're talking about being available for those people whom the Holy Spirit is touching in such a way that they are drawn to the depth and the richness of our Catholic faith. So Mr. Goggia is winding down. So how is our parish connecting the neophytes, the people who have just gone through baptism, who have just joined the church? How are we connecting them to the parish? This is certainly very, very key in terms of an evangelizing process for the spring. Are there service projects we can invite them into? Are there small group processes? Can we ask the RCIA teachers and sponsors what gifts the neophytes have and see if we could connect them to volunteering or ministering in some kind of way? Is there ongoing small group activity that these people not only might want but might need as their continued inculturation into the Catholic faith? And then, most importantly, it's also a time for us to develop greater outreach for potential inquirers and seekers. This is so key for us to keep up this sense of welcoming and inviting and calling people to experience Jesus Christ in deeper ways in their lives, and to appreciate the wonderful resources we have to help people experience conversion. I really worry, 85% of parishes do not have year-round RCIA. And that means that 15% of parishes, people can come throughout the year and express some interest in knowing more about the Catholic Church and knowing more about Jesus, etc. But 85% of parishes, there's this kind of dead spot between May, after people have been baptized and whatever mystagogic period we have, and September. And it's so typical for parishes to be telling people who show up in May, June, July, gee, I'm kind of interested in learning about you Catholics. And then we say to them, well, wait till September, we'll be in touch with you. And I think it at least is communicating that this is not something important that we have to give to people. All of our parishes should be working to invite people all year long and should be developing strategies to kind of draw people in and connect them throughout the year. So some ideas that we might think about. Let's jazz up inquiry or pre-inquiry a little bit. And there might be various ways to do that. For instance, you could have different sessions, then you could advertise these widely. Do you know who Jesus is? Come and share. Come and discover. How to read the Bible. Question and answer night. Come with any question you want. Ask a priest. Stump the priest. Whatever. Something that kind of gets a little buzz going and gets people who are who may know other people, get them to say, oh, why don't you come to our church? We're having this or having that. Make sure these events have a fun feeling about them. Apologetics doesn't have to be proof A, proof B, proof C, you're wrong, I'm right. But apologetics is this very human reality whereby we're connecting people searching with the depth and all the graces that God has to pour into our lives. You might connect events like this with a simple picnic that you have outdoors at night before they start, or on a Saturday afternoon, or you could have some of the more fervent ladies in the society, or even the men in your community, do some potluck, bring some things. You could even, make it a pizza night or something. Just something that is summary, something that says fun, something that says come and be connected with us. And if you can hold these in outdoor spaces, summary settings, patios or what have you, just make sure that the mosquitoes are not biting people throughout, or little gnats or some other things that might be happening, coming up in your part of the country at that time. And if you do this, make sure you have follow-up information conveniently placed, the kinds of brochures or invitations or various kinds of information, and also a little sign-up sheet, so if anybody wants to follow up, that they can do that. So I think there might be a variety of things that we could do in terms of helping people go from searching to finding mood. Our own parishioners, but people that our parishioners are connected to, and just kind of have a couple of events like this to kind of stir the pot and get people kind of saying, oh, those Catholics, they have this going on over there, or I went and I had this question and I got it answered, or I went and I really found out about this, that, or something else. I think we are, to a large extent, not as imaginative as we should be in these kinds of areas. A little bit about children, and then we'll take some questions. This is a tremendous opportunity to be involved with children, and a tremendous opportunity, therefore, to connect with the families of children. And the kind of outreach that we can be doing at this time of year is almost irreplaceable in terms of this outreach we can't do at other times of the year, because school is out, the kids are running out in the streets, the parents don't know what to do with them, and so it's a great opportunity to think about how our parish can reach out more effectively to children. So design some summer activity for children, such as Vacation Bible School or summer camp. Might even be longer than a week. It depends what your volunteers and your staff can tolerate, but I can guarantee you every moment you put into this will be paid back enormously, not only in the life of the children, but also in the lives of those families. Make sure that children and parents know about the event that you're going to put on, broadcast it as widely as you can. Design events so that anybody in the neighborhood with children can participate, not just for parishioners. Vacation Bible School is an opportunity when people will send their children just to get them out of the house, will send their children to the parish, as long as they know those children will be safe, and as long as they know those children will get a positive message. And there's a whole industry around the Vacation Bible School, so there's a lot of resources you can have. They can be Noah's Ark, or they can be in throw David Stone. I mean, there's all kinds of stuff that people do here that can involve children. And it's fun, and it's a way in which, especially if we get other children to come, we can broaden our knowledge of who's in the neighborhood and how various ways that we could connect to them. So you have to advertise widely. Get the families whom you know to reach out to families whom you do not know. Very often, we're not going to find out about the family who doesn't send their kid to religious education, but people who bring their children to religious ed know about them. So try and do as much lateral advertising as you possibly can. Peer reaching out to peer, children reaching out to other children, parents to other parents, etc. Put flyers in stores, on public bulletin boards, etc. And look for parent Facebook groups or various blogs or various other tweety things you can do in the area to try and and get the message out. I know parents really appreciate efforts that are done like this. And again, as long as they know their children are safe and their children are going to learn very positive life-enforcing things, they're often very happy to send those children. And as these children come, this is a wonderful opportunity to get to know the parents. So to go out, mingle with the parents, find out who they are, let the parents see the face of parish staff and parish volunteers, and let parish staff, more importantly, get to know various parents, especially parents who would send their children who are not usually associated. Host regular series of movie watching parties that you could do. There are all kinds of movies that children like to watch and parents are happy. So, do some popcorn, have some healthy juice or whatever, yogurt if they're that kind of group, or tofu, whatever it is. But just try and use the warmth of the time to create these events. It's not hard to rent a movie and to put up a big movie screen and kind of create a very comfortable place where people can hang out together. Talk to the parents, find out the best day to be doing this kind of thing, have snacks, be sure to get the word out, informally collect contact information for who comes, ask them, if they have a suggestion for another movie or some other kind of event, etc. And other kinds of events that your parish might host, water fun day, a game day, a field day, etc. Again, use your imaginations, and I would say Catholic priests who are not married are not the ones that come up with the best ideas, that there are a lot of other people with children that can have some very creative ideas. So let's get them into the conversation and get them involved. Make sure our religious ed staff is on board as we plan these things, design attractive and fun flyers for religious education, to recruit people for the fall, how do we find children, all these children that are missing. I think one diocese estimated there were like 40% of Catholics that were, whose children were not known by a local parish. Advertise, enroll children during the summer months, have fun events that make that possible. And don't just stay with the regular children you know. It's the ones you don't know that you have to reach. These are people whose lives would be so much richer if they were in contact with the gospel of Jesus Christ and the life of believers. So we're really doing people a favor by giving them an opportunity to connect with us and be involved in these things. Build upon the contacts that we've made throughout the summer activity for children. Throw a family fun event as July ends or in August to kind of prep people up. Again, use our imaginations and use this time, this great season when people are outdoorsy and willing to connect with each other, to have them connect with Christ. So you see all these question marks on the screen, and I'm going to ask Emily if anybody has given us any question. We do have questions.
I have two right now.
Sue.
And the first one comes from Sue, who says she likes the idea of having, special greeters for these events, kids, confirmandi, etc. But she wants to know, how do you best impart information with them so that they show the best side of the church as greeters? How do you make sure that they're friendly, that they're know what to do?
Yeah, I really don't know, and obviously you have to select people. There are some people who are not capable of the discipline of greeting people when some children just cannot do that. But I would say to ask teachers to recommend, I won't say the best and the brightest, but reliable people, and then just have a little script that you run through so that, again, they're coming to church. We're not showing them all the beautiful art in our church. We're not bringing them up to tour $200,000 organ or anything like that. We're just getting them into church and connecting them into people. So develop a little script, hi, welcome to so-and-so, we're so happy you can come. Let me show you to your seat. If you have any questions, let me know. It's just a simple thing like that. Thanks, Sue.
All right, another question I have is for Gina, and she wonders how vital it is for the pastor to promote the activities that we're talking about, the RCA, children activities, and other ones from the pulpit.
Well, it certainly helps, but it depends also how you do it. I would say that one of the diminishing ways to communicate with people is through pulpit announcements. So my rule is, after the third announcement, nobody is listening. They're just waiting to get out of church, and they're saying, why are they going on and on with these announcements? So, again, a general rule, prioritize, and as we prioritize, pick 1-2 Sundays when we're really going to focus on this and get the message out, and Father plus material in the bulletin, plus flyers, plus processes to distribute it further, plus any other image messaging that's going on. All of these are creating a redundancy where one reinforces the other. So would I say, to put the question the other way, if Father is not announcing, is that a death knell? Well, not necessarily, because in some cases the person who has the most power in a parish is the secretary who's writing things up or putting things in bulletin or putting stuff on the website, etc. So you have to get to the person or persons who are going to be key in disseminating that information in that local parish network, and make sure that they have the imagery, that they have the colors that are going to be used, that behind the poster, etc., so that the message gets out there and everybody can see it. Once again, to the extent that we could get people in our pews doing the distributing and the inviting, to that extent we're going to be successful, because peer-to-peer is really one of the basic rules in effective outreach and evangelization. Okay?
I have one last question.
I saw you writing. So.
From Ruth, who kind of asked a similar question, would it be helpful if a parishioner announced activities before Mass? So instead of doing a priest announcement, maybe a parishioner announces them before Mass.
It depends, because in my experience, before Mass, only half the congregation is there. 2 minutes after Mass begins, 3/4 of the congregation is there, and 5 minutes, most of the congregation is there. So again, it depends on the culture of the parish, how distracted people are in coming together. I know I have always found it very effective before anything begins to have the cantor or the lector, commentator, whoever you might designate, go out and welcome people and have them welcome each other. And then to have a kind of a quiet period before the Mass begins. And that kind of, creates a sense of the assembly coming together and the assembly coming to attention. And it might be possible to have some quick announcements there. But in my experience, I have generally found announcements before the Mass to be less effective than announcements at the end of Mass. And I find announcements at the end of Mass not to be incredibly effective if the list is very long and goes all over the place. Okay, well now we're going to focus on other dimensions of this in terms of the neighborhood. Parishes are really wonderful entities. They are the way in which a diocese expresses itself in all these different settings and areas, but they are the way that the church is interfacing with neighborhoods, with people, with environments. Here's where your church becomes enculturated. Here's where your church gets to interface with all different kinds of people on all different kinds of levels. So I think spring is a great opportunity for us to think about neighborhood-wide events. For example, Spring Fling. There was a parish down here in Washington in the inner city. This is 20 years ago, when I probably had a little more energy than I have now. But we would plan a spring fling, and we would spend 2 weeks going around the neighborhood, inviting people, and then we would just get, some little thing to play music and have various kinds of fruits and snacks and what have you, and just, do little contests, etc. Just something very simple, so that people had a sense that, we can all get together and enjoy ourselves. And there might be a lot of variations that we might do on something like that. I know various parishes have what they call these festivals or patronal feasts, fiestas patronales, or what have you. And, they work, but they tend to be primarily, what would I say, economic events when the parish is looking to make a lot of money because they have all these little booths and people are coming. And people are pretty much focused on, well, we buy a ticket, this is what we get for our ticket. So it's much more of an economic transaction than if you have something that doesn't have an income side to it, and people just feel, we're coming, and isn't it nice, we're having this picnic, et cetera, et cetera. So if you do design something like this, advertise in the local papers to reach a wide audience. Again, I realize newspapers are diminishing in terms of people's attention, but I have found that almost all areas have a local newspaper that just goes around to 1 or 2 zip codes or 1 or 2 sections of a city, and advertising in them is usually fairly reasonable. And it's a great way because they literally give the paper away. They put it around under people's doors, etc. And you can show your presence in that neighborhood by putting a little ad in or putting in an invitation. Make sure the components of a neighborhood party are in place, tables with simple foods, music, games for children, prizes for different contests, etc. And of course, safety. Think safety all the time. There are guests who are here. There are children who are here. So just try and have people around to monitor any kind of dangerous situation or chaotic activity, etc., that might happen. That's not likely the case, but, I have served in some areas where there was a lot of gang activity, and you could not do anything without being aware of gang activity. So, again, just be as aware of your neighborhood as you can. And at these things, have a table with a parish information there. You might have a little video going if you make a video of your parish that you might project, or other videos that we have in our office that you also could project. And make sure you have a way to follow up. You got to have a little bowl, drop your card here, or a little sign-up sheet. Sign up, and we'll pick a name, and they get a prize, and then you just send thank you notes for the other names. Again, a lot of this is imagination. A lot of this is what's going to work in that local area, in that local neighborhood. What's going to work to make things really friendly and have a feel that everybody's at home and everybody's connected. Now, I think this is a great time to design home visiting strategy. And, I realize, having been involved in evangelization for over 30 years, when you say home visiting, there are a bunch of people that just roll their eyes and say, over my dead body. All right, I grant that. However, I have been heartened by the numbers of parishes that are beginning to do home visiting and beginning to take it up. There's one parish I know that does a 2x2 ministry that's actually evolved over a few years, but again, they continue to do this. So it's an opportunity to explore how to do this, and I'll elaborate on various aspects of this as we go through. Again, we're not asking people to give us a pound of flesh. If you design or think of this thing as neighbors connecting with other neighbors, as reaching people to let them know who we are, as reaching people to see how we could help them, It doesn't have this, we're coming to your door to shove a Bible down your throat feeling about it. It has rather, here we are, we're all in the same neighborhood, we want to get to know you, can we help you get to know us, kind of thing. And that can be designed in ways that are not threatening either for the people who are doing the visiting or on the other side for the people who are being visited. So, what do we ask? We're asking parishioners, give us 1 or 2 afternoons, go around and help us meet people. And you can, create nice 8.5 by 11 or 9 by 12 envelopes or door hanger plastic bags. We have them as resources here in our office. With door hangers, you just go around and you put them on doors or you throw them on the porches or what have you. And you can put some very attractive material in these envelopes or in these door hanger bags that, people look at and they smile and, it's for them it's not like they've won Mega Millions or something, but it is a gracious little thing they see. And I think when we do this, some little gift, some kind of general holy card or some kind of general statement, a quote from a psalm, etc., that's not offensive to people, so that if the household happens to be Muslim or happens to be Jehovah's Witness or what have you, they will not be offended. You don't want to give everybody pictures of the Immaculate Conception because that means something for us, but it probably doesn't mean anything for people who are not Catholic. So again, just think sensitively, what are the kinds of things that we can do? Home visiting is your chance to actually meet with people that you want to meet. Meet with people who are not connected. Meet with people who have not been at church or have been away from church, have questions about church, or have given up on faith. And here you are, you knock on their door, they open the door, so that means they're game, and it's an opportunity for face-to-face interchange. And you can design the visit as you want. I'll give you a little scripting in the next transparency, but hi, we're from St. Anthony's Parish, and we're taking advantage of this warm weather to come and meet our neighbors. Do you have a moment? I mean, just something simple like that to open the conversation. And in my experience of home visiting, I probably shouldn't say this, but I will. In my experience of home visiting, when you knock on a door and you say you're a Catholic, people are just so relieved that you're not a Mormon or a Seventh-day Adventist or something. They just are so relieved that they actually are happy that Catholics are knocking on doors. So I'll just take that just from my own experience and in doing this over my lifetime. You can bring a variety of little brochures and booklets, but again, designed for people who do not know us. It shouldn't be our little in-house information that we use to signal our various positions inside the parish. And design your own brochure, your own message, or you can use some that are available, again, from different organizations. Door hangers, this worked very well for us in Chicago, because people were never home in Chicago. Just like Los Angeles, I think they say 2/3 of everybody in Los Angeles at any time are in a car on a highway, and that might be true. But you can leave things as you go around. If you're going to do home visiting, and there are materials for this, and my little book, The Evangelizing Catholic, talks about in detail about home visiting. You have to go 2 by 2, put on the smiley face. People will share with you what they want, so just give them a chance. Hi, how are you? Oh, I'm so glad you came by. Or, I've always had this question. Or, gee, they create the discourse, and you just train people to be open to the leads that people are giving you. Have your people pray before, during, and after the visit. And I found it's very, very effective to pray with people, if they're open to it, as you visit. So you knock on the door and, blah, 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 blah. Before you leave, is there anything that you would like us to pray about at church? And they say, well, my grandmother is going through this or that. And you just smile and say, do you mind if we pray right here? And 9 out of 10 times, they'll be ecstatic that you said that. And you can pray in a very spontaneous way. Often people want to hold hands, etc. And it really is a touching moment, and it kind of seals that as a faith event when you do it. And you prepare the material that you want to bring along. Think about that. What are the kinds of materials that are going to be attractive and useful for people. Here's a little simple script, and you can elaborate this as it makes sense in your area. Hi, we are Frank, and this is Mary, and we're from St. Anthony's Parish. We're taking advantage of the warm weather to get to know people in our neighborhood. Can you give us a moment of your time? And do you know about our parish? We'd like to just leave some information about our parish and some things that are going on in case it could be ever helpful to you. Do you mind if we do that? And you might mention any special summer programs, especially summer programs for kids. And then, are there any needs that our parish can help you with? And then, we always are welcoming children at our various programs. We have this thing for teens, we have this for young adults, et cetera, et cetera. But listen to see what needs they are expressing. And then, do you have any needs we can pray for? Would it be okay if we prayed for them right here? Thank you for your time and your prayer. Now, in my experience of doing home visiting, obviously most people don't answer the door. The ones who answer the door usually are open, and depending on how they answer that door, they're signaling to you how much interchange they would like to have. And if they've opened the door and invited you into their house, they want to have a conversation. And it's just a great opportunity to get to know people and to let the conversation go where it will. Our visitors don't have to be little theologians. They don't need the catechism memorized. If there's any questions that people have that they feel they can't answer, they can refer those to the pastor or a pastoral associate or a catechist or what have you at a later point. But it's just the joy of that visit, just the joy of that encounter. And people who do door-to-door visiting actually end up liking it. And most people don't want to do it all the time. The Legion of Mary does, and God bless them. They'll go right to heaven. But they will do it. They'll do it a few times because they really enjoy this kind of contact. Another area to think about in terms of the spring and coming summer, young adults. It's a great time for outreach. The whole strategy of Theology on Tap, and you can Google that and see how to get those resources at your parish. Create a forum for young adults to hang out, to relax, to ask questions, etc. Get your active young adults, and again, the cynical side of me, your few active young adults, because most young adults are not active. Get them to think about ways that they can do outreach. Get interesting speakers who can come in and create a buzz. I mean, young adults are dealing with massive issues about relationships, about careers, about life choices, about family, etc. So you can, get interesting ways to raise these questions and create conversation. And again, make it a fun event. Emphasize the social in designing the evening. Get people to know each other. Make it a lot of fun. If you can, get a corner of a bar somewhere and do it over there, or the back part of some kind of tavern or something, and music going on in the background. I mean, these kinds of things appeal to millennials. And see if events like this can lead to ongoing young adult outreach in a parish. I've often felt that people do Theology on Tap, and they'll get, 40, 50, 60 young adults coming 3 or 4 times in the summer, and then it stops. Well, what do we do after that? How do we follow that up? Now we're going to talk a little bit about some ideas that we've gotten from you, because we've asked you to share your spring evangelization ideas, and people actually did that. I've been in this office for 6 years, and I've been trying to get people to tell us what they do so we could share this with others, and it's so hard to get this information. So we designed some surveys, and some of you had generously responded. And so I'm going to share some of this with you. And again, if you have any experiences you would like to add, chat them in now or send us emails, info@pemdc.org, just to let us know so we could let other people know. So we asked people, has your parish ever done specific outreach in the spring or early summer? And as you can see, a little less than 40% actually have, which is probably 20% more than I would have guessed. So that is very encouraging. And people are looking at this as opportunity time. Even though the staff stop meeting on a regular basis and people start scattering, there's enough people around to realize that this is a great opportunity. The majority of respondents have never, however, had their parish do specific planning for outreach. And so I hope this webinar gives you ideas for doing that. And here's Marilyn Coetzee of Immaculate Heart of Mary Parish in the Archdiocese of Cincinnati, and she reports, our parish, Immaculate Heart Parish, hosts a 2-week summer religious program for public school students grades 1 to 8. We offer 3 different summer sessions in addition to the usual Sunday religious ed program. After Christmas and Easter, we have a program called Open Door for anyone interested in the Catholic faith or for returning Catholics, as well as year-round RCIA. So here's a parish in Cincinnati that really has a whole range of things to kind of stir the pot and get that welcoming contact dimension of parishes really at a high level, and because often it's not. So here's Lynn Sexton from St. Paul the Apostle in Seneca, South Carolina, Diocese of Charleston. This is a parish that, an area where Paulists have served for many years, up until I think about 20 years ago. It always breaks our heart when we can no longer serve at a place. So it's great to see evangelizing dynamics going on there. And Lynn says we have a Victory Garden ministry where volunteers plant and grow fresh vegetables in the parish garden. This ministry has inspired many parishioners this year. We now have 15 new volunteers, plus volunteers from youth ministry, who participate in the preparation of the soil, planting, maintenance, harvesting. Vegetables are being harvested throughout the summer months and brought by the volunteers to Mass for parishioners to take home after making a little donation. Donations are then collected from each Sunday and gifted to the local food pantry. Last year, the equivalent of the proceeds fed 12 families for a year. So we're increasing the size of the garden this year. Now, this is not something you could easily do in the Bronx, but it is something that can happen in a lot of areas, and not just South Carolina. And it's very interesting, just kind of as we read this, thinking of the camaraderie of the people who are working together, how much I would learn about growing vegetables or growing anything if I was there. But really, so much information that people have to share as they're working together and doing a common cause. And here's Deborah Doyle at St. John and James Parish in the Diocese of Providence. Our Faith Formation Office is sending a letter to all families with children who were baptized in the parish under the age of grade 1 in September. Letter will encourage them to start a Mary garden or have a plant on a windowsill with a statue, includes a little seed pack and some information about flowers related to Mary. Many of these families do not attend church, and they'll be invited to visit. In August, we'll send out an invitation to register for religious ed, those of kindergarten age, And this is a wonderful idea. You might even have a little plant celebration where you invite people to bring the plants that have grown and kind of show off their green thumbs to each other. Again, wonderful ideas. So there are ideas out there, and we've just tried to stimulate things in the few minutes that we've had. I just began the conversation. It's for you to continue in your own local settings among your own staffs. Did we have any more questions?
I've had one come in.
One, great.
And this was from someone asking, specifically for door-to-door evangelization.
Yes.
How do you address the needs for people if when you ask, is there anything we can help you with? If they ask for financial request or some other kind of assistance or financial help,
Yeah.
How do you prepare people for that kind of a request?
Okay. In my experience, no one has ever asked for financial help. That could be simply, I don't have the friendliest face in the world or what have you. But it's not likely to happen. But that kind of question should be treated the way all questions are treated when we do this kind of ministry. Namely, have in our heads to whom we can refer these kinds of questions or situations. So if someone says, do we have any needs? And they say, yeah, I haven't been able to pay the rent this month. Can you help me? You say, well, we have a ministry in the parish which we call a Vincent de Paul Society, or which we call Social Joe, what have you. I'm going to refer your case to them and see if they can help you. If somebody asks about, well, I've been married before, if somebody asks about, some other particular situation, how many books are in the Bible, or all that kind of stuff, and you kind of say, well, offhand, I'm not exactly sure. You can take these questions, refer them to professionals in the parish or the diocese, and have them connect and deal with those situations. But again, it's in all my years of door-to-door, I've never had people ask for money. Usually in these situations, people want to look good, so they'll hide things that they think might cause them to feel shame, and it's unfortunate that's the case, but they do that. That's human nature. Any other questions?
Not yet.
Okay, well, it is 3:59 according to the little box in my computer, and we've wasted part of a spring afternoon doing this. So I hope this has been very helpful to you. Do we have any other information? Yes, we do. We have this wonderful resource pack designed by Paulist Evangelization Ministries called Neighbors Reaching Neighbors. And it's a little pack that is chock full with all kinds of brochures, ideas for gifts. It has videos for presenting the Catholic faith, videos that kind of help people talk about their faith, etc. And it's meant to be an idea starter. And this has been out about a year. And some of the brochures that we've done have people have been asking for them, and they are getting quite popular. I think the most popular one is Can I Be a Good Catholic Without Going to Mass? And the next most popular one is 5 Reasons to Consider the Catholic Faith. But there are other ones, and we've developed some new ones too. So go to our website and check out this resource. I think you'll get all kinds of ideas. It's a little manual. It only take 20 or 30 minutes to read, but it really gives you very concrete situations in which to think about how outreach actually works can work in a parish. So that resource is there for you. And is there anything else we need to know about that, Emily?
Not that I can think of.
Okay, very good. So you just go to our website and look at that. And here's
the URL down at the bottom, so you can go look at the toolkit, and that's www.pemdc.org/toolkit.
Yeah,
and there's also the link on the side for you.
All right, yeah, there's where you can get that. Okay, so thanks very much again. Let's enjoy the warmer weather. Let's get our bodies a little more limber, and thank God for all the blessings that He gives us. Thank you so much. Blessed spring.